action up in double time. James analyzing every line. Paul's out of sync, but they don't care. Three minds tangled, but they're always there.
Hello and welcome to Seismic Cinema. I'm Colin. I've normally not seen it. Paul, who can't make it tonight, has normally watched it in the wrong order. And James?
I've put an essay on it. How's it going, mate?
Did I put you off there because I said your name?
You did. Usually I'm James. I wrote an essay on it. But you said my name. Threw me off, mate.
We can start again. We can start again if you want, or just keep going.
Just keep going, mate. We've had enough false starts.
No worries. So you can find Seismic Cinema on social media, on X, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky, if we can ever get logged back in, and Facebook. We have our own community group as well. I think we feel a bit false here, James, because it's Paul that does all the socialising on our behalf.
He does. He's good at that, so he is socialising, talking to people. To be fair, mate, we're too busy for that malarkey. We do appreciate him for doing all that.
Yeah, we do indeed. And you can also find the podcast on YouTube and Spotify if you want to see the visuals, but also on all these other platforms as well if you just want to listen to the audio. And we're also part of the Podpack Collective. We think these are all still active members, but we'll need to again check in with Paul and see if that's the case.
Welcome to Shatsunami, a variety podcast that discusses topics from gaming and films to anime and general interests.
Previously on Chatsunami, we've analysed what makes a good horror game, conducted a retrospective on Pierce Brosnan's run as James Bond, and listened to us take deep dives into both the Sonic and Halo franchises.
Also, if you're an anime fan, then don't forget to check us out on our sub-series, Chatsunani, where we dive into the world of anime. So far, we've reviewed things like Death Note, Princess Mononoke, and the hit Beyblade series.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and all good podcast apps.
As always, stay safe,
stay awesome, and most importantly,
stay hydrated.
Big shout out to What's the Script. I really enjoyed our wee shout out yesterday, James. It was quite unexpected.
To be fair, the shout is out all the time, mate. Just shows you're not listening to them.
No, you're misunderstanding me. I meant the one they posted on Facebook.
Oh, right, aye. They gave us a wee, that's true. Yes. Audible mentions.
Yeah. And they were also quite complimentary about the things I've been watching. Just to mix things up a wee bit, I've decided this week we're going to do that just at the closing side of the episode, so we can get right into the review today.
Anyway,
we'll do that at the end.
Okay.
I'll explain my reasoning later. Okay. Our most recent episode was Hacksaw Ridge, which went on to YouTube last week. So if you haven't watched that, check it out. And we're currently sitting on 249 subscribers on YouTube, so really close to another landmark. So if you're watching, it'd be great if you could subscribe and also give the video a like as well. Okay, so today we are reviewing, this was my pick. We're going to review Nuremberg 20 from 2025, which is a historical psychological drama. That's a real tongue twister. It was written and directed by James Vanderbilt. It was almost you. It's based. There was a book called The Nazi and the Psychiatrist, which this is inspired by. There was a couple of taglines, because I know we like our taglines. One of them was an epic World War II thriller based on true events, which I think is a bit vague, isn't it?
Aye, because it's a lot more than that, isn't it?
No, I just mean like there's lots of movies that could apply to. Do you know what
I mean? Exactly. You want to be a bit more to the point on the actual film, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was one of the taglines. The other one was "The world will bear witness to Nuremberg," which I thought was a wee bit better than the previous one.
Aye, that's better.
The movie had a budget of between $7 and $10 million. That's what I found. And the box office was 45 million. So made a profit. Maybe not as big as Hacksaw Ridge that we looked at the last time. It's got a 72% score on Rotten Tomatoes and a IMDb score of 7.4. I'll just talk about some of the main cast members. So we had Russell Crowe as Herman Goring. We had Rami Malek as Douglas Kelly, who would have been perfect for PK if he was here with the surnames.
That's true, mate. Actually, yes.
We had Michael Shannon as Justice Jackson. We had Richard E. Grant as Maxwell Fyfe. And we had Leo Woodall as Leo Triest. And there was other people as well, but those were the main ones. I've got a fun fact, actually, about Michael Shannon.
Hit me with it.
He was a background character in Groundhog Day.
Oh, was he?
You know the scene in the diner? You know the diner they go back to multiple times?
Aye. He's eating all that stuff and smoking all that sort of stuff, aye.
I'm not sure which character he is, but apparently he's in that scene.
He's maybe part of the scene where he's how he kind of like toppled, just like a scene where they kind of topple all the trees and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's maybe that.
It's probably that one. So what did you... I don't want to... Something I want to discuss later is our favourite performance in the movie. But just in general, I know we did this last week when we looked at Hacksaw Ridge. What did you make of the cast for this one?
Well, it's pretty star-studded, mate, wasn't it? I think it's kind of peppered with Oscar winners and Oscar nominees, so it's quite heavy on that front. So like I say, I didn't know this film before I started watching it. Obviously last week when you discussed it, we seen that, or we heard that Russell Crowe was in it.
Yeah.
So obviously he's pretty good actor anyway. But looking at the cast, obviously before I played it, it was pretty heavy, mate, on how big the names were. You know what I mean? So actually, I was kind of making big things from it, to be honest with you. The cast.
So Rami Malek, the first time I came across him was, did you ever watch that show Mr. Robot? Yeah,
aye. Of course I did, man.
Yeah, it's computer orientated, I suppose. I watched some of it back in the day. That's where I remember him from. But Richard E. Grant was actually in the Star Wars sequels. Well, he was in Rise of Skywalker. That wasn't like purposely trying to make a Star Wars reference. That was just somewhere where I remembered him from. But he's obviously came up in plenty of other things as well. So you mentioned this was a first time viewing. I watched this off the back of Hacksaw Ridge. I think I'd had my eye on it for a while. I think when it came out in the cinema, I was actually a bit intrigued by it. And I was looking forward to watching it when it came on to my favourite now TV. Is this one, were you aware of this film? Was it one you thought of maybe watching, if we hadn't mentioned it for the podcast? Was it one that you'd ever consider giving a watch?
Nah, mate, not at all. I don't know why they came up. How you've obviously on the algorithm for you, mate, has come up at some point and you've clicked on it. Do you know what I mean? When you've watched Hacksaw Ridge and all that sort of stuff. I don't know, mate. I don't know why. It's not one. It's obviously I thought I'm going to have to watch that, but obviously I'll give you my thoughts on it as we go through the film and things, mate. But actually, it's something different because we don't really go into. Well, as far as I've been on the podcast anyway, mate, we don't really go delve too much into war films as such. I think the first one that I did with you guys was Full Metal Jacket. And we obviously was touched now last week because we touched on Hacksaw Ridge, and then we've got Nuremberg, which is not really, it is obviously war related, but it's post-war related. It's a bit different in that sense. Yeah,
we also did Saving Private Ryan way back when.
Right, mate. Good film.
It was a while back. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. Okay, so we'll get into it then. So, first question for you is, you hadn't seen this film, but there are 4 or 5 other documentaries / movies, and there's also the book that I mentioned earlier as well. Have you watched any of them or read the book?
No, mate. No. Actually, watching this film, mate, it's made me kind of think I was a wee bit kind of ignorant to what happened and how we got to the point and things. I mean, I didn't know this happened. I knew when I searched the film up, I seen there was like a film in the Nuremberg trials or something it was called in the 60s or something like that, maybe it was. But obviously searching for the film, mate, I realised there was a lot more kind of documentaries, there was like TV shows, and there was prior films to this, mate. So it's obviously really big, mate, and I've never I'm not really a history buff, mate, to be honest with you, do you know what I mean? And it's actually made me wonder out a few things about, you know, maybe I should go into it a wee bit more, because I learned some stuff that I didn't know.
Had you heard of the Nuremberg trials? Like,
I heard of the trials. I heard
yeah.
I just didn't know what it entailed, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, or who was up for trials or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? I heard that like people talk about it and that before, but nah, it's oblivious, mate, to actually the history, mate, and I'm quite glad that I learned a wee bit along the way.
I read a book last year. It was called The 6 Days That Changed the World, and it was like the 6 last days of World War II, which obviously kind of links into this as well. So, I like yourself, I knew of the Nuremberg trials, but I didn't know the kind of real background of it. So, it's certainly piqued my interest. I would actually be interested in potentially reading the book that this was based off in the future, potentially. So just getting into it then. So split this into kind of three acts. So the first one is going to cover the tribunal getting together, like the different legal bodies from the different allied nations getting together to put the Nazis on trial, but also the introduction of Douglas Kelly and his role in the film as well. What did you make of the start of the film? How they started with the surrender of Goring, I think is the pronunciation. I could be wrong. What did you make of the opening scene?
It's not well. It was a surprise, mate, because like obviously I read the synopsis before the film, and I thought maybe the trials, obviously about the trials, but I think maybe the surrender and all that, the capture maybe would have happened throughout the film, and then eventually get to it. But it was right after the bat, mate. You know what I mean, straight away he's in his car, he's captured. Well, he's surrendered, isn't he? He's wee white kind of handkerchief, and then he comes out of the car, mate, and this kind of speaks volumes to the guy as well. Like it's like in Germany, he's like, get my luggage, and it's that kind of I don't know arrogance. But it surprised me in how actually it just kind of right away we were right in to the surrender capture, and then obviously we're going to go and talk about them wanting to put on trial for war crimes that had never been done before, which is obviously important. But it was good though, because it rather than waiting for something to happen, it just happened right away, and it kind of grabbed my attention right away, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like from a first, like, if it's a TV show or a film, whatever, you want to be right engrossed into it, and that did that for me, mate. And I was like, even though the film was 2.5 hours long, I thought I was engrossed with it, and I'm with it now. Yeah, I'm put into it.
I felt the same with Hacksaw Ridge. Is that I think you're invested in a movie, don't you, when you're not clock watching, and as you say, the kind of 2.5 hours goes quite quickly. There was also the opening shot. You had the Nazi symbol on the ground, and then the soldier peeing all over it, which really set the scene for the movie. But as you said, Gorin's so bold, isn't he? He just drove right into the middle of all the soldiers, and then, as you said, he told them to get his luggage. and that obviously becomes a big plot point throughout the film as well. It's interesting. I wondered your take on this. For such a serious subject matter, I thought there were still sprinkles of humour from the characters in terms of some of the quotes and some of the interactions.
Aye. I don't remember myself laughing. You know what I mean? I
No,
wasn't
maybe
really
not like maybe not like laugh out loud, but there was like a few like character moments or like lines between the characters that
I think
the film had a wee bit of humour as well, like dark humour, you know.
I think there was moments where obviously with what's his name again? Remy Malek's character, Kelly, Dr. Kelly. I think the interactions between him, PK, and Goring, as well as the soldier that was with Kelly as well. There was that kind of triangulation of not humour as such, but it was their reactions to a few things. That it was their kind of more kind of the way they acted it. But I know what you're saying, mate. There was some kind of nice interaction, especially the magic tricks and all that sort of stuff. And you know, you'll come to, obviously, because that's important.
I like the through line of the magic trick as well, how it came up multiple times and then obviously played an important part in the conclusion to the film as well.
Aye. Like he was conducting magic in front of him and all that, and he was asking questions about, you know, Adabra, about, you know, how do you do magic, and he says to him as well that he's got a magic trick, isn't he? Something like that. He's going to escape from the noose sort of thing. So he's told him already about, you know, the act, what's going to happen. Doesn't quite believe him. Well, doesn't believe him because how can he escape when he's imprisoned? But obviously, it makes that's also an important plot point.
I must admit, I thought of you when because I rewatched it over the last couple of days, and when he said about that he was going to escape, I was like, that's right up James's street. That's a lovely bit of foreshadowing there.
I know. I was like, I didn't know what happened at the end of it, mate. You know what I mean? I didn't know, and I thought this is a bit, that's like him asking and inquiring about the magic and how he does things and what the words meant, and then telling he's going to escape. Just found a bit odd, but again, for somebody that arrogant and all that, and the way he presents himself, he is going to say that. But yeah, it was foreshadowing at the end.
Yeah, so you've got the introduction scene where you've got Mr. Kelly on the train, and Luxembourg is in, I think.
I can't remember, mate. I think it might be Luxembourg.
And my immediate thoughts were, I really want to go on that train. I love old school trains. I think they're really cool. And he meets a reporter. Well, we don't know she's a reporter at the time, but he meets a reporter and they hit it off. There's immediate chemistry. I'll come back to this later, James, but I've just finished season 4 of Dexter. Want to pause it there. We'll get to that later. This is spoilers for Dexter, by the way, season 4. She reminded me a bit of Christine in a sense. You know, the love interest who's just out to get your secrets and to get your knowledge to then share it with the press. Because there's a bit in, that's her name, isn't it? The one that goes out with the cop. That's the daughter of the Trinity. That's her name, isn't it?
I can't remember since I've seen it. Who does she go out with? Who's the copper?
Well, the Quinn.
Quinn.
Aye.
Aye. So
His
I
love interest in season 4.
I can kind of remember now.
She's the daughter of the Trinity Killer. So the lady in this kind of reminds me of her because she's just like trying to. Well, she didn't know who he was at first, but later in the film, obviously, he tells her all about his interactions with the Nazi soldiers, and then the next scene is it all over the press.
Aye.
So she's a wee bit of that ilk that she's trying to steal all the information. But anyway, they hit it off. They arrive, and that's where he meets his pal, which is his name is Leo Triest. So he's the soldier who's the translator, who takes him to the government building. Just a wee word in on him. So we're going to come to our kind of overall favourite performance later, but I thought he was quite kind of understated, but a really strong aspect of the film and his story and how that evolves over the piece.
Aye, I really liked him, mate. For no really a big character as such in the film, he was always there. I mean, where he was driving the car, or give them cigarettes or whatever it may be, he was be the translator. Again, there was a funny moment between him and Dr. Kelly when he said, "Oh, he can speak English," and his face just dropped, and you're going, "What do you mean he can speak English?" And he goes, "Well, he looked at me when I called him fat. He understood what I was saying." And he goes, I've been muttering under my breath about him all this time, and he can understand me. Again,
Yeah.
I did wonder at one point if his character would develop, because he just he was always there, and later on we find out about him in his past, which is quite traumatic, and how he ended up being where he was, and I'm quite glad we found out that, and I'm glad that he got some kind of retribution at the end of it, because he wanted that for his family.
No, I like their relationship because obviously right away you realise that he can speak German, which obviously gets further developed as we go on. So anyway, Douglas Kelly arrives, and this is where he meets, if I can remember his name, I can't remember what the actor's name was, but the kind of the sergeant with the white hair that he speaks to.
Aye, he's in. I can't remember his name in it, but he's in loads of stuff, mate. He's in. I've not seen this programme, but I know he's in it. Mad Men. I've not seen it, but I know he's in that. He's
no nonsense, isn't he? But he's not all bad. Like he's got, like he doesn't suffer fools, but he's not like the worst guy either. Do you know what I mean? He's not like any of the guys out a Full Metal Jacket or Hacksaw Ridge. No, he's certainly not. But he's got a balance, mate, between obviously no suffering fools, but wanting to do the job at hand. You know what I mean? He's quite intimidating as well, isn't he? When the prisoners arrive at the prison and things like that, and he's barking out the orders, and he's kind of laying down the ground rules of what they can and can't do. And so Douglas gets his mission essentially. He's to I can't say the word. He's to evaluate the prisoners and make sure they're fit to stand trial, and he's also got to keep them alive, and they put a lot of precautions in place to make sure that they don't commit suicide, which is their biggest fear, because they want to get the justice on them. And he gets right to work, doesn't he? He doesn't waste any time. He gets right in to speak to Goring. He's immediately quite fascinated by him, and then right away he wants to get in and speak to all the different people. And we see quite a lot of snippets of the conversations. Also, we'll talk more about Goring later, but he meets a lot of the other Nazi soldiers as well, and you see like videos, don't you, about all the different things that they've done, and all the horrible parts they played in the war as well. And some of those scenes are quite intense. There was the guy who said that like he smelled Jews in one of the interviews, and
which is foreshadowing what happens at the end as
Yeah.
well. Because
because his pal, yeah. What did you make of the first? Like, what did you make of the way? Because obviously it changes as the film goes on. But see, Goring originally, when Douglas first starts talking to him, and as they're building their relationship before the trial, what did you make of him? Like, if you can kind of put to the side how he changes. See the first half of the film. What did you make of him, and how Douglas developed quite a bond with him?
Well, he wants to get right to work with him, didn't he? But he couldn't help. Well, obviously speaking for myself, but obviously the character and things, he's also trained for this scenario. But I wouldn't blame him for being, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Intimidated by his presence, because he obviously was second in command, and but at the same time, his demeanour to him, it's like killing him with kindness. And it's like he was being all happy, all cheery, and all that sort of stuff. He was like, let him talk to him. He wasn't, he wasn't like spitting in his face or shouting at him or anything like that. It was killing him with kindness, because at that point in time, he knew that he was intelligent, and if you compare that Goring to the rest of them, they're all very kind of volatile, whereas he wasn't. He was just calm and collected, and just let him talk and do his stuff. Do you know what I mean? And he's a doctor, and he was like, he's here to help and all that sort of stuff. He's here to talk to me. He's here to kind of be my pal, and that's what he was telling him. You know what I mean? And that tried to get translated, and you just kind of think at a point, is this going to turn sour at some point? Because it can't all be this nice. I mean, you look at the other ones that are done other than that season, themselves, they're just kind of they weren't forthcoming at all with them, because they were prisoners at the end of the day. They didn't want to be there. Whereas obviously he surrendered, and he's kind of got to take what's coming to him. But I don't know, a very weird way to act, but he obviously knew what he was doing. You know what I mean? Because I think he wanted to go to trial, didn't he, as well, because and how he was going to present a statement and all that. He'd already thought all this stuff through, and he said, but it was good how that relationship started.
Yeah, like if you put to the side what you know that he knew and what he did, see if you didn't know anything about the guy, his interactions with Douglas, he comes across as quite charming, doesn't he, on the whole, in the first half of the film? And I think his relationship with his wife and his daughter, like, I don't think that was fake. I think he does have genuine affection for his family, because you see it in his reactions. And obviously, Douglas becomes really close with the family as well, because he's delivering the letters for them and playing piano with the daughter and all these sorts of things. So it's asked a few times during the film, isn't it? Like, are we friends? And I don't know about you, but I feel like Douglas was actually kind of like friends with them in a weird way for the first half of the film until the tipping point.
Aye, I think he was just treating him like a patient. Do you know what I mean? He didn't. I don't think he's until the tipping point, obviously, but I think he was just treating him like a normal person. And at the same time, he was wanting to write a book as well. So the background, the Dr. Kelly wants to write a book about the Nazis. So he was trying to get as much information as possible. And the only way he could do that is by getting him on side, to give him the information that he needed. And he does say, he comes out the first kind of the meeting with him to say he's charming. That was the word he used, and he was. Do you know what I mean? But that's weird. Like, why is he not putting up a fight? Why is he acting this way? And but I think because he was so forthcoming with the doctor, it allowed him to get in and ask him these questions and trying to be honest with each other. And are we friends? And I think he probably was to some degree, because he built a relationship there, and when you mentioned about the wife and that as well, I don't think he didn't ask about the wife beforehand. Not until he put up the other guy up for a bargain. The guy who crashed in Scotland and all that. I can't remember his name now. The third in command, basically. Who met with the king. But until he put out for a bargain, he asked, to see his wife and things like that. But I've got a bit of trivia about that, by the way, because the actual film depicted he didn't see his wife, but in the actual real, when I looked it up, in real life, he did see his wife. She brought in and she did see him. So, so that wasn't, the film didn't portray that correctly. I don't know why did they do that. I suppose it's to maybe put it as more of a kind of, to be him more like isolated. He didn't get what he wanted type of thing. Aye. But obviously the tipping point comes, mate, when you come on to that. I think I've answered the question. I think they were kind of friends, but he wanted what he wanted because he wanted a book to write, and he had to do it, and by any means possible.
I've got a couple of points here. The first one was I really liked that. See the scene with Douglas and his pal, the translator, when they're in the library.
The translator.
And they're in the library and they're talking about the book he wants to write. And at first he's coming across as quite profit driven and that he just wants to make a name for himself, which is part of it. But there's also a really nice line where he says we need to learn about these people so that we can avoid it happening again. And I thought that was one of the really powerful messages of the film. And there's a quote at the very end of the film, just before the credits, was it the only thing we know that man can do is what man has already done. It was something like that.
I wrote it down, mate. Yeah. But it was like, it was he was driven by fame and profit as well, because I think later on in the film he asked him about, he talks about his father and all that, and he didn't amount to much, but he wanted to become someone, you know what I mean? And that's what that's why the purpose of the book was. He was obviously put in a position with a psychiatrist, and they had to evaluate mental health and all that sort of thing. But that was the primary aspect. But the secondary was, he would write the notes in a book and eventually compile it.
It'd have been quite an interesting read. And the other thing I wanted to mention that just came into my head was that Goring's mask does slip when he sees his his comrades. There's a scene where one of the prisoner, the one that was claiming to be to have forgotten who he is, basically.
I asked the boy, was it Hess or something like that? The boy landed in Scotland, and then they took to London and all that sort of stuff.
Because he arrives at the prison, doesn't he? And they're passing each other. And then, although the guy's not meant to remember who he is, they do the kind of salute to each other. And I found those parts of the film really quite chilling when the soldiers were doing their kind of mantras. And I think that's where you saw the other side of Goring in those moments where he wouldn't go against his customs. And there's the big bit at the end where he won't go against Hitler at that point as well.
I don't know if his mask slipped as such. I think
I just mean he went from being this really quite likable guy to just this fanatic when he saw when he had the opportunities to interact with his comrades.
That's true. He did see that, especially walking as well to the trial and all that. And then we had that. It was the other guy that saluted. He didn't. But facial expression kind of turned as well, as if like you're my comrade, you're my pal here. Do you know what I mean? But I found that quote, by the way.
Yeah.
So the only clue to what man can do is what man has done. Yeah. By R.G. Collingwood.
There's a lot of powerful moments in here. One thing just before we finish off the kind of first act, we didn't really talk about kind of Justice Jackson's role. So he's approached there's chat that they want to put the Nazi leadership on trial, and there's different countries involved. There's the US, there's the UK, there's Russia, France as well.
Aye.
I think that's the four. And there is a wee bit of humour at that scene. Remember when he arrives at the door, and it's like,
Yeah, that's right. That's true. Actually.
pouring the rain, and he's basically like not that interested in the conversation at first until the guy gets to the point, and then he's quite an intense character, Justice Jackson, isn't he? He's like a good family man, but he's really focused on achieving the goals here. He strongly believes that they should go on trial because a lot of the victims of the Nazis in the war didn't get the opportunity to go on trial. But there is some conflicting interest, isn't there? There was a bit where it said they need to hurry up and get the trial started so that they can hang them. So it was like they're doing the trial
For the sake of it,
but they already know what they want the end result to be, which is understandable in the circumstances. But
this was done to set a precedent, isn't it, of what's going to like for any future crimes and stuff. And we find out later about Britain as well, which I didn't know about either. I don't know what act that's in. Actually, isn't near the end. Because it's near the end, isn't it? Because he's got a statement and stuff like that. But I think his wife said to him at the time, "Put them in trial for what? They didn't attack us," which is, they didn't. You know what I mean? But it's obviously important going forward now. Like that sort of stuff shouldn't happen. Do you know what I mean? Like it's genocide at the end of the day, and the guy, it's like, obviously we're getting political and all that sort of stuff. It just can't go unheard of. Do you know what I mean?
I did say that the laws that were enacted here are the baseline for all kind of international laws now. So it's obviously a huge world event.
Well, we could say, is it, Joe? Do you know what I mean? Like there's wars going on all over the world now, and what's came of that? Do you know what I mean? Like what's happened?
Yeah.
Like how? So we're obviously getting into
that. This is more something that would happen when the war is ended, if that makes sense. When they're like dealing with the consequences rather than while it's happening.
I know I get that, mate, but I just like saying if a war does end with two countries, then there should be consequences. That's what what's discussed here. But down the line with other countries currently, will there be consequences? I'm not too sure, mate. I'll be honest.
There was some good back and forward between Douglas and Goring, where Goring's basically saying the Americans bombed all the people in Japan. Are you any better than us for what we did? And then Douglas is saying like collateral damage isn't as bad as like what you guys are doing, and it's like neither of those things are good things really, if you think about it. But it was interesting that they were kind of rooted in their own viewpoints based on their country of origin.
I think she would be though. Do you know what I mean? It's like what about it? What about you? Do you know what I mean? Like you've done that, but what about you? And how are you any better than us? And of course, the thing is, he was getting attacked. Obviously, like about what the Germans had done. Not him personally, obviously. He wasn't part of it apparently, but what the Germans had done. But again, he was taking that because he took that insult because he is German. He was part of that. He took it as an insult and then attacked him with something with what about it? You know what I mean? And he had a point. You know what I mean? Like at some point, everybody had done something wrong by killing other people. Yeah. Now, it doesn't make it right, obviously, but I think he's within his right to say, what about you? It's equal measure in it.
Mm-hmm.
But really, what they had started, and obviously the concentration camps and stuff like that, mate, that's incomparable to what the Americans done or what the British done. You know what I mean? That's just evil, mate.
Yeah. just to finish off Act 1, couple of bits of trivia. Or do you have any more trivia for this kind of section of the film?
Yeah, mate. I've got to jump in. What's his name? Goring was on a strict diet when he was in jail.
Yeah.
So he was fit to stand trial. So apparently he lost about 30 kilograms. Subsequently, obviously, for the film, Russell Crowe put on weight to be, likened to Goring's weight at the time. So obviously he was getting caught fat with the guards and stuff like that, mate. Do you know what I mean? So, but according to him, he was a fine specimen of a man. Again, him saying that was obviously trying to endear the Doctor as well at the same time.
Yeah.
Anything else from there? I don't think so, mate. You got anything?
Just that Douglas Kelly was, well, we knew this, but he was obviously a real US Army psychiatrist. Also, Russell Crowe, who plays Goring, and this was actually the case for a few of the different actors in the film. He studied archival footage of like the trials and like real footage of Goring in his preparation for the role, and I think you can really see that. And what I wanted to do in terms of the new structure was to ask a wee trivia question at the end of each round. It was originally going to be you versus Paul, but since Paul's not here, just one wee question per act. They're relatively straightforward. So aye, well, they are. They really are. They'll be harder in the future, I promise.
I only ever watched the first act of the film, mate, so I don't know what happens in the second two acts. Or the first
Goring surrenders to which army?
Austrian? No, they're in Austria, though, aren't they?
I think they might have been in now, but which? But what was the army? What's the army that?
Oh, the army's. Fuck.
Beep.
British.
Incorrect. It was the US Army.
Was it?
Apparently.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so that's the end of.
I'm pretty sure they're in Austria, but.
Okay, so before we get into Act 2, this is or for both of us, this is our first wee challenge. So the first one is to choose our MVP of the movie in terms of acting. I'd like to highlight that. We're not saying that a lot of these people are good people in any shape or form, just totally in terms of the acting performances. So, James, who would you say was your standout acting performance in this film?
Okay. Well, for me, it's between two. It's between Rami Malek and Russell Crowe. I'm going to say Rami Malek. Okay. I think just obviously Russell Crowe did do a good job. I just felt that through the film, mate, we seen a lot more emotions with Rami Malek in terms of being happy. You can see when during the trial, you can see obviously there's quite a lot of them tearing up and things like that of what the footage was and things, and there was a lot of dialogue. It was powerful from him, building that relationship up with not just him, with Goring, with the actual his pal as well. I can't remember the boy's name now. Leo.
Yeah.
And obviously having back and forth with the guy with white hair, the main kind of colonel guy. And obviously back and forth with Jackson as well. Like, he was told and umpteen times he was no fit for purpose and all that sort of stuff, and but still, I think his performance of kind of battling emotion, I think he just won it for me, mate. I do think Russell Crowe was up there, obviously. Playing that character couldn't have been easy for him either, I don't think. I'm talking about Russell Crowe, sorry, playing that character. But I think just go through sheer emotion, and he's expressions as well, and he's kind of acting, physical acting. I think he just shades it for me, mate.
I totally thought you were going to go for Russell Crowe, so that was a nice surprise. I agree with a lot of what you said. There was multiple great quotes from Douglas Kelly throughout the film. I would go with Russell Crowe because I felt he was the most kind of fascinating part of the film for me. How he just totally wasn't what you would expect, and how you see kind of wee peeks at his real intentions throughout the film, and then he transforms at the end into someone who has just been downright lying about what he claims to not know, even though it would be impossible for him not to know. And I thought just every scene that he was in was fantastic. I thought the best scenes, really, I'm not sure your view on this, but was the ones in the cell, just the conversations between Douglas and Goring in the cells. I thought they were the kind of strongest parts of the movie for me.
No, I agree, mate. Because it's so intense, them talking to one another, and he's always trying to evaluate him and hang on to every word he's saying to know his true purpose and all that sort of stuff. And you kind of feel yourself also being in that cell, being so, it's like you're quite obviously claustrophobic. You know what I mean? So you're in there with him, and it's like what you're saying back, and the translator initially as well. Like, I just don't know, man. It was the best. I think it was the most intriguing scenes. I think you're right. Listen, I don't disagree with you at all, mate. In terms of, I think it's a case of both of them, mate. And I thought about the question. I didn't. I mean, I don't know if you weren't going to ask me or no, but I thought, who is the better performer here? I just think personally, Rami Malek just shaded it for me, and that's take nothing away from Russell Crowe, mate, and how he performed and how he turned and all that sort of stuff, mate. It just shows you how good the actors are, mate, to be honest with
you. Yeah. So the second act is all about the initial trial, because they get notification, don't they, that it's going to go ahead, and then it's all about getting everyone kind of prepared for it. And out with the scenes in the cell, I thought the trial scenes were really intense as well, because you know me, I love a legal thriller.
100%.
But I thought it was interesting seeing the locations as well, because it was pretty run down, a lot of the facilities they were using, both the prison and the courtroom, but they spent time getting it up to spec. And what I also quite liked during the trials was that you heard through the speakers what was happening. Like, you heard like just the kind of general people who lived there listening in to what was going on in the trial. You also heard like the families, like Goring's wife and daughter. You hear them or see them listening into the conversations as well. And I think the first part of the trial just shows what the attitude was towards those trials, because as soon as like Goring stands up and then the judge is banging his gavel, and then they're saying that they won't be allowed to make any like declarations unless it's after they've been sentenced. So I think at that point you think it's a bit of a no hope for the Germans, and that it's already been predetermined. What did you make of the initial trial and the setting that it was in?
Like I say, mate, it was run down, mate. Obviously, initially, got it up and running for the actual trial itself. The outside, even the facilities they were held in, it was rubble, mate. Do you know what I mean? It was basically getting sentenced and trialed where they have destroyed. At the end of the day, this is all because of you. I think it was the trial held around the world, mate, wasn't it? Like, it was obviously to through like the speakers and all that, and as they were talking in the courtroom, the kind of flashes between the families and people that were actually affected. You know, they all wanted to know the outcome of it, what was going to happen at that trial. It was important for them to hear that, because it should have been, you know, behind closed doors, if you will. Shouldn't have been. I just like that. I like the idea of everybody, even though they weren't involved in it, but they were actually involved, you know, externally, because they were kind of like, even though they could be in the courtroom, they were still hearing what was happening, and what should happen. In terms of this, like, not allowed to make a statement, them giving him that privilege would have played into his hands and gave him a voice before anything else happened, and it would allow. It probably would have possibly. I mean, I don't think so, but possibly cloud people's judgments and all that sort of stuff, because Dr. Kelly gave, I think it was Justice Jackson, the statement beforehand that this is what he was going to read out. I think it might be, I don't know who it was he gave that day, but no one allowed him to do that. Kind of makes it look like, okay, there's no point you saying anything, mate, because you're going to be found guilty anyway. You know what I mean? But I was kind of wanting to hear the statement and hear what he had to say. But he didn't. Obviously, he got interrogated later on and things like that. A wee bit of trivia about the trial itself, mate. The actual trial, when it happened, was Goring spoke in German, and he never spoke English, whereas in the film he speaks English. So again, you can see them all putting their kind of headphones on and all that for the translation. That happened in real life. But obviously, for the film, he spoke English. Again, that was probably him. The film didn't depict that, obviously, but I think it shows you that if you're going to put me in trial here, I'm speaking to you in my native tongue, and I'm going to be as awkward as I can. But aye.
What I found interesting was, though, a lot of the time Goring didn't have the headset on. He only put it on and put like the sunglasses on when all hope was lost. It was like he was kind of resigned to his fate at that point. But before that, because he was really seeking attention when he first arrived. Because did you notice he was the last to stand up and the last to sit down? It was basically like, look at me.
Aye.
Star attraction here.
Well, again, the statement he was the show was about him, wasn't it? Because he was a second in command and all that sort of stuff. You're right about I didn't really notice the sunglasses stuff, but I noticed that he was up and down last, like taking his time type of thing. So if he was the last one to sit down or stand up, people would be looking at him. You know what I mean? That is he was the star of the show, and he was just reminding them of that.
Yeah. So the trial is host to, I'd probably say, the hardest scene to watch that I've ever watched in a movie.
It was hard, mate. It was difficult.
Because I've seen pictures of the camps. I've seen other movies, but there was just some bits. I'm not also going to describe them, but there was some bits. There was a particular bit near the end of the footage that I actually physically. There was a couple of times I actually physically felt ill watching that scene, which obviously you would. But the fact that that was like the world seeing the extent of the atrocities for the first time, and that was bad enough watching in the cinema, and you can see it in the reactions, and I reckon a lot of those actor reactions are real, just real visceral reactions. You can see it in the people in the courtroom, just how like horrified they are by what they're seeing.
So before I go into that, a bit of trivia about the courtroom, the people in the courtroom. So the people in the courtroom were all, I think they were Hungarian. Most of them were Hungarian, whose families had been affected by the war. So they were just like, you know, people. And after every kind of take of that trial scene, and that in particular, they all clapped and applauded the actors for that. But mate, it was hard to watch, mate. As much as we know about, you know, the Holocaust and all that sort of stuff, mate, and the concentration camps and what happened, nothing will ever really put it in perspective, mate. Of no, I don't do it. I didn't do history at school, right? And I know a wee bit here and there, and obviously know about it. For me, mate, I don't think it matters how much I read on it. Seeing that on screen, mate, for what it was horrendous, and I think I know what scene you're talking about, mate. In terms of just like what happens there.
Was it the one with the vehicle?
Aye, it's like a snowplow type thing, mate. Just
that one.
Aye, it's horrible, mate. And how anybody can try and justify that, or let alone to say that they weren't involved in it, it's horrendous. And actually, like, I was like, I didn't like sad and shocked and appalled, mate. I wouldn't even describe it when me watching it, mate, because I didn't think it would have done that. But in a way, I'm glad it did it, because again, people like myself who hadn't watched any of this stuff before need that sense of realism, mate, of this actually happened and it can't be done again. You know what I mean? This is horrendous genocide here that's happened, and it just puts it all in perspective, mate.
It's not been the case for many films, but I think this is a movie that's really like kind of shoot me to the core a wee bit, just in terms of what, like, we're quite sheltered where we are, and we're very lucky to live where we live in the conditions we live in. But just my reaction to that film, it's not happened to me many times. Another time it happened was you heard of the movie One Life, when the guy helps all the Jewish people escape Prague during the war. I'd really like to do that one at some point, if we're kind of in our era of doing these kind of films. That one would be good to do. But yeah, I came out of it just pretty shook up, I must say.
I mean, what I did like about the actual film itself, it used kind of the raw footage of what actually happened. So it's like, obviously that film itself was bad, horrific, and all that sort of stuff, and it had to be shown. But even prior to that, it was shown, like, even when it was in the courtroom, for example, it was showing you, like, it just kind of swiped away and it gave you the actual real footage of what happened in the courtroom at that point in time. There's a few things that happened in the film as well. It had Hitler and Goring on stage and these other kind of high command. This was, you know, this is real footage here from what happened. And again, a film like this, presenting all the facts in front of us, mate, it was good to see that, because like you say, we are sheltered here and we don't appreciate it. And again, as I've seen later on in the film, mate, in the last act, I think you're going to go into, where Richard E. Grant basically buries him, and factually he goes through the years, mate, of how many they killed, man. And again, that alongside the footage, mate, he just it's not worth thinking about, mate, is it? It's just
it just shows how seriously they took the subject matter, that they actually put, like, to put those videos into a movie that's in the cinema, that's on your streaming services like that. They could have not done that, but I don't think the movie is as powerful, because I feel like you, as the audience, Goring's been really charming up to that point, But then when they show that footage, you as the audience and
Kelly.
Douglas as the character, that's the point where just everything shifts, and any humanity you felt for him is gone, because he keeps referring to them as, was it work camps or prisoner camps? And he was saying that, do you not think the Americans put the Japanese to work after the war and all these kind of things? And he is basically just making it out like he has no idea what's going on, even though he's like the deputy to Hitler.
His reluctance to take responsibility, mate, is quite something. Doesn't he want to work camps? Something like that he says in it. Excuse me. And he didn't. Whatever happens to work camps is none of his business. Do you know what I mean? They all do some. There's always like a chain of command, and whoever's charged there, it's their responsibility. He didn't know when to put it. Do you know what I mean? As if it was he discussed at all. It's just I don't know, mate. It's just again, just go back to the footage, mate. It's just it was important, and I couldn't imagine. Like I say, I'd not seen this film before and I couldn't imagine of being in the cinema watching this, mate, and then seeing that, and maybe just hearing or seeing people's reactions to that, because I'm pretty sure 100% it was all would have been the exact same, mate. You know what I mean? It's just, it would have been as powerful, mate. And I think we are basically, Douglas Kelly, mate. At the end of the day, we are trying to work out what this guy's all about, and I think after seeing that, there's no coming back for that, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's factual footage, and to fight the point where he goes back and says it's been doctored. It's all the film's fake. It's like, how, like, what? You know what I mean?
Well, there was a lot of that, wasn't there? People saying it was all like propaganda. Until I think they actually showed it in cinemas around the world to show what the Nazis had been doing. So before we got into the final act, I think it's important, we've kind of alluded to it. He was approached, not just in his role as the psychiatrist, but he was asked to basically spy on Goring as well and pass on information to Justice Jackson and the British lawyer, Richard E. Grant. And as you said, he passed over what his opening statement was going to be. But after this happens, he loses any care for doctor-patient confidentiality and just gives his book that he was writing. He just gives absolutely everything to the lawyers so that they can bury him once and for all.
I don't think you mentioned either, but because I think certain things happened. One of the Nazis commit suicide.
Yeah,
and then again, it just shows you how much, because there's a towel there, and he managed to kind of braid the towel and basically kind of hang himself, but not hang himself with the force set and putting his pants in his mouth and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's like, so there's that, and then like that happens, and then we get the introduction of, what's his name, Colin Hanks's character, who's like the second psychiatrist that's kind of trying to kind of second opinion on, because I think what happens is I think he's getting too close to him, and he's not getting the information that he needs, and he's brought in to kind of give the army more information, isn't he, and all that sort of stuff. But he's quickly in and then he's quickly out again, isn't he, Colin Hanks?
There was quite a funny scene though where they start like scrapping, and then the major guy's like, "Are you wanting to press charges?" He's like, "No." He's like, "Just get back to work." It was also around about this time, we mentioned it earlier, but his like love interest takes all his information and leaks it to the press as well, and that also leads to him getting removed from his position, because he turns up to the main trial just in a suit rather than his army gear.
Aye.
There's quite a powerful scene where Goring's putting on his uniform, and he always refers to himself as a, what's his title? It's a
Raymond back or something like that, is it?
can't remember. I remember it when I hear it, but not at that point. But then there's a scene where he leaves his suit, his army gear on the bed, and just goes out in the kind of civilian clothes in that sense. So before we got into
Yeah, mate, it's the Reichsmarshal.
Aye, that's the one.
The
Just
right
before we
marshal.
got on to the last act, just a wee question for you.
God's sake.
What did you find more interesting in the movie? Did you find Goring's, the kind of interviews with him and his transformation throughout the film, or were you more into the kind of the legal side where the Allies were banding together to try and get the justice? Was there a particular kind of through line in the film that you were particularly keen about, or found most interesting?
I think the interactions between Goring and Kelly, mate, to be honest with you, were the kind of the highlight of the film. I mean, I'm not saying, like, obviously the Allies getting together and bringing this trial and, you know, to get it going and stuff like that is important, obviously. But the actual interactions between Goring and Kelly, that relationship building, and we want to get, even though we know this guy's a bad guy, man, we want to know why this happened, and we want to learn things as well, mate. Do you know what I mean? So the only way to do that is through the conversations they have. There's a scene as well, they're doing the Rorschach test as well in the kind of interrogation room, and
the pictures and stuff. The
ink blots, man, and he's at a butterfly, that kind of carry on. It kind of tells them their kind of intelligence levels and stuff like that, and he was given kind of really detailed answers, whereas the other guys were kind of given, he's like, one of them said vagina for every single one of them, and then he said a Jewish vagina for the last one, so it's like he's no. Again, I show you the difference between them both, or all of them, compared to Goring, mate. I think that was more interesting to me, mate. I think the interactions between them, and then the kind of building to the courtroom's important, but the actual courtroom itself is interesting as well. Yeah. So it all triangulates, mate, doesn't it? They're all just as important as each other, really, at the end of the day. But for me as a viewer, I was really kind of engrossed in the conversations they had.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think they were the strongest parts. So we talked about our favourite performances. I was just wondering if you had a favourite, not favourite, but a quote that you thought was really powerful from this one. Is there one particular quote that stands out?
Well, the last quote, mate, is obviously the one we kind of focus on. I don't really know, mate, to be honest with you. Obviously, I think... I would need more time to think about that, mate.
I'm sure, I don't know about you. Sure, you could always post it on the socials after we finish.
I will do, mate. I'll post on the socials and make sure you...
And also, we probably should have added... this is also a collaboration with us and the audience. So if anyone else wants to share their favourite performances or favourite quotes, I really liked the one about just because someone is your ally does not mean that they are on your side.
That's right, mate.
I thought that was quite a good one. So we're ready to go on to the final act. And before we get to the courtroom, I think another really strong scene, and we actually mentioned it earlier, was between Leo and Douglas, when he's sitting on the bench and you find out that he is German, that he's also a Jew. You find out that his sister is in another country and his mum and dad went to the concentration camps and he never heard from them. You find out in real life, well, this is real life, but you find out that him and his sister reunite and she comes to America. it was mentioned in the kind of credits.
The end credits, mate. He got letting go, didn't
he? He was an interesting character because the guy that he helped get changed before the gallows.
Aye, that's right. Aye.
He had a bit. I don't know. Did he have a bit of a? You wouldn't have thought he would, but did he have a bit of a bond with that prisoner? Because he had like a teary eye. I don't know if you noticed that he had like a kind of teary eye when he was watching him get executed, and I don't know whether it was like emotion at the justice or whether he, like Douglas, had bonded with the guy a wee bit and felt a wee bit sorry for him in some ways. I don't know. I just wondered your thoughts on that, or if you noticed that.
I didn't notice it, mate. No, but I found it odd because it was that the boy came in and he says, "Oh, is his name Striker?" I can't remember now, but
another guy from X-Men.
Sorry.
Is that not the guy from X-Men that puts Wolverine's bone adamantium into him?
I can't remember. Super Ono. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's like, he's not put his clothes on, and he had to go in. The boy went into the cell, and I don't know. I found it odd, right? Like, why does this kind of "I'm your friend" type thing? This kind of came out of nowhere a wee bit.
Yeah.
We didn't really see this guy often, but yeah, he's having this bit in this scene. He's like, "I'm your pal. I'll bring you up. I'll take you in. I'll walk you through and all that." Yeah, we cuddle. Nah, I didn't get it, but I looked it up. And it said that all the guards that were like on, at the cells had conversations with these guys every single day. They spoke to them every single day, so they must have built up some kind of, I don't know, no friendship as such, but they must have built up some kind of, rapport with them as some kind of friendly nature. Do you know what I mean? And which I don't know. I would always imagine, right? The guards outside the cell would be like pure bastards. Do you know what I mean? Like they would just every time they got their food, they were spitting it and all that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? It didn't seem to be the case. But I looked it up and that's what it said. So it must have been a bit hitting towards that. But I didn't notice the tears, mate. To be honest with you, no.
I just noticed, when someone's kind of actively crying but not weeping, but you can see just like a wee glint in their eye. I thought I kind of noticed that. I could have been wrong though. So on to the trial. I always thought the build up to the trial scenes were really intense with the music and the way it was filmed and the prisoners shouting like their kind of mantras in the hallways on the way in.
Aye.
I thought they did a really good job of building that up. And then Justice Jackson has his moment, doesn't he, where he looks like he's winning. He's got a very supportive wife, doesn't he, who's in the crowd going, it's like, finish him sort of thing.
Get him on, kind of thing, aye, and everything he says, she's doing the line and all that sort of stuff, aye.
Oh, sorry, we should have added Douglas's conversation with Leo was actually the kind of catalyst, I think, for him going back to watch the trial, because he said, like, essentially, you can make a difference. Because he said, I can't make a difference, I'm just a psychiatrist. He said, well, you can. And it's that conversation that leads to him going there, because the camera focuses on him, his reactions quite a lot when things are going on. And I don't know about Justice Jackson, because he misses out on a promoted Supreme Justice post, was it?
But the president pretty much guaranteed him it, didn't he? And then what happened there?
I just don't know if he's like that great a lawyer in a lot of ways, because he basically failed.
He messed up big time, mate.
And then how? So yeah, he's asking the questions, but Goring's got a kind of response for everything. I think Goring's view basically wasn't it? He's like, I'll admit to things that I did, but I'm not going to admit to things that other people did.
No.
That was kind of his justification. And it looked like he was going to get away scot-free. And then how good was Richard E. Grant's part of that film? Because he's not in it a lot.
Always know.
But that scene, he's a top tier actor, him, isn't he?
Big shout out to Richard E. Grant. He was in Doctor Who as well, so we'll give him a wee mention. Aye, I mean, Goring had an answer for everything, mate. And he spoke about he kind of the loophole of this, that the immigration was the part of it, and he goes, because he gave him this kind of the paperwork.
Yeah.
He goes, you just say it's immigration. He goes, aye, it's it's in the top line. It says it in black and white. It's about immigration, and then you can see that his argument had totally collapsed. He's got no more kind of questions towards him. Richard E. Grant comes in and says, you were second in command from this year. 500,000, Jewish people died at this point, and you're second in command this year. Yes, it goes, well, X people died year on year on year, and you didn't know about this. No, I never knew anything about it. And then this last bit, man, he was like, if you're going to give me anything, give me this. He says to him, knowing what you know now, would you still stand by Hitler? And he says, he salutes Hitler. And then it was like, shot woman. It's like, oh, he's never going to go against these people, never going to go against it. And the only reason he knew that is because the book, he gave him the book. And that was his last act of, the doctor's last act of, of helping out. Do you know what I mean? So it was his, Richard E. Grant wasn't a lot. He was here and there, not really saying much, but then he had the biggest part in that courtroom by basically condemning him, mate. You know what I mean? So, what I didn't know about this as well, man. I didn't know that Britain were going to invade Norway as well. About I think something about the oil or something like that as well, because they mentioned in the first act about, or the second act about, Goring's argument was that they were just going to they were going to preempt, was the word they used, preempt Britain's attack on Norway.
Mm-hmm.
And then Richard E. Grant says, that's true. So they were going to do that. So we're trying, and the Justice Jackson guy is going to go, well, we're trying to put these guys up for trial for doing what you were going to do. So I didn't know what that was a So you like learning stuff, mate. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, geez, where have I been?
They were asking a lot about different countries, weren't they? Saying like Austria wasn't part of Germany before the war, and I think Slovakia was mentioned. There's a few countries, because some countries have obviously changed their names. I think there was things that are maybe now part of like the Czech Republic. Because there was the name of a country they mentioned that I wasn't actually familiar with. I think it's just what this goes to show is just the impact, the kind of cult following that Hitler had from his officers. Because, like, can you ever imagine in Scotland, for example, that there's not anything like that? Like, you would rather go to prison or get executed rather than like say a word against like the king or something. It's like, I just can't relate to how much hold, even in death, he had over him. And it's crazy, isn't it?
I know it is. Just ideology, mate, and obviously kind of was it hypnotized him. I don't know. He also had some kind of power.
There was his public speaking that was his big weapon, I think, because it was mentioned earlier in the film that's when Goring got kind of inspired by him.
Aye. We didn't mention as well, mate, before this, the Americans took Goring's wife and daughter as well. Took them, and obviously, like the doctor struck up a relationship with them, the family, obviously as well. Like just kind of learning more again for his book as well, and wanting to know the man behind the Nazi type thing. And we found out they were gone. He's like, why are you taking them? And eventually they were returned, because by doing that they're just as bad as the Germans in some respects. So they were they had nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that happened, at least.
Mm-hmm. They seemed like the wife seemed like a good person anyway.
Aye.
From what we see.
Yeah.
From what we've seen. So once Goring said what he said, there's no going back. And it's at that point that and they said once Goring falls, the rest will fall. So they all get convicted and sentenced to death. And then the last part of the film is the kind of build up to the executions. Did you feel that, obviously linking back to the kind of magic trick abracadabra scenes earlier, did you think this was going to happen, that he would escape and not face justice?
I did this. I thought he would have been hung for the gallows, mate.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see a fight from him, mate. You know what I mean? I didn't see a fight from him.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you see the first couple of executions, and then no, sorry, you don't see that. Actually, you see the colonel major guy talking to the press and all that about what's going to happen. They're going to get placebos for sleeping pills, all the rest of it, and then the alarm goes in the cell. Before that, we get the abracadabra moment where he's get the cyanide pill, and then I think one of his quotes in the film was like, "It's only an act of desperation. Would you kill yourself?" Or something along those lines. There's no hope left, or whatever. And I think he's seen that was it. I didn't know how he got the cyanide pill, mate. I had to look it up, mate, because I was like, how did he get that? Because no one would have missed it. But
how did he get it then? So
apparently, one of the guards let in a woman. I don't know who it was, mate. I can't remember now, and she gave him a fountain pen.
Right.
And it was stashed in the fountain pen. And that's how he hid it. And he hid it in some kind of what was it now? I can't remember, but hid it in a tin, basically. I think he had eczema or something like that. And he hid the pill or the pen, whatever it was, inside the tin of the cream he was using for that. And then obviously we don't know that at this point in time, because it was a mystery. They didn't know, mate, until the guy came out and said that this what happened. It must have been that, because it was a mystery. How did he get it? I suppose that was the magic here for the point of view. How did he get it?
I've got a wee bit of trivia about the Goring suicide. They said it was slightly dramaticized. It said he ingested the pill the night before, not just before.
Right.
So in real life, he took it earlier than that, but it's obviously more dramatic for the movie that he did it, because they weren't telling them. They were going to tell them 15 minutes before.
Yes.
That was happening. And then there's a really no nonsense guy. It was like, should we postpone them all? And the guy's just like, let's just get it done.
Let's just get it done.
Obviously, it was like it reminded you of like a PE hall where they did it.
Aye, mate, aye. It
was so, that whole scene was just so grim, wasn't it? Just the guy kind of pleading and shouting about his wife, and then they showed him obviously urinating afterwards, and it wasn't nice to see, because although we've seen it in shows like Game of Thrones, you see things like this, it hits differently when it's like people portraying real people versus fantasy characters, doesn't it?
Game of Thrones, mate, and all that malarkey is just even though it's good shows and things, it's fiction at the end of the day. And it will hit harder, mate. That this happened in real life. People do these atrocities. Do you know what I mean? And there has to be consequences for them. And I mean, pissing yourself when you get hung, mate, is what happens apparently. So there you go. It hits harder, mate, because it's these guys deserved it ultimately. You know what I mean? They committed the crimes. There has to be consequences.
Yeah.
My
And
opinion.
that's pretty much the end, although there is the scene where Douglas goes on as like a radio show.
He's a bit eccentric, mate, isn't he, on that show?
He's obviously because he reads in the paper, doesn't he, that Goring escaped. And
I see him on the train on the way back. So he didn't know.
yeah, and that seems to have had a real impact on him, because he's basically saying that it's not just the Nazis that are like this. He says there could be people that in the USA that would get rid of half the population to take the wealth and riches. And then the guys basically gets chucked off the radio show, and they're saying that this isn't the way to sell your book. And we obviously find out that his book fails, and that tragically he also takes his own life further down the line. Ironically, also by hanging as well.
Aye. His book didn't do well, mate, to write another one, and then he was also troubled, mate, for him to take his own life with the same method of going. A wee bit of trivia, mate, a couple of pieces here, a wee bit of foreshadowing. I'm sure the guys that watch the script will love this. Foreshadowing section. So when Douglas Kelly's on the train leaving, he's showing practice in his car shuffling. He stops and cuts the deck to reveal the King of Hearts, commonly called the Suicide King, due to the character on the card holding a sword in a way that appears to be stabbing himself in the head. This foreshadows what's about to happen in the next scene, with Herman Goring committing suicide via smuggled cyanide capsules.
There you go.
The other piece of trivia that I was, again, see Justice Jackson. His cross-examination of Goring was presented verbatim from the actual record of the trial, so it was worth a word what he done. Again, kind of depicting the real life events.
Yeah. What's your screen name about, by the way?
What's that?
What's your screen name about?
My screen name? You don't know it, mate?
No.
Maximus Decius.
Who's that?
Commander. Gladiator. Russell Crowe.
Oh, right, okay.
You've seen it, haven't you?
Confession time. I've not seen Gladiator.
Oh man,
that's one we could do. For any people just listening on audio, we often choose kind of themed names. So my name's Justice Jackson, not actually. My name's Colin, but he was a character I thought was really good in this as well. And then James is doing some Gladiator stuff over there. So is that
just because Russell Crowe was in Gladiator as well. So last week I was Liv Blair, who was obviously Vince Vaughn in Dodgeball, but he played another character that I can't remember his name of now in Hacksaw Ridge.
I know, it's funny how we remember so much about this film, but see, by next week we've probably forgotten half of this film. So, I think there are bits that will be very hard to forget from this one. If I don't say so myself, James, I've really quite enjoyed discussing this one. I think it's been a real difficult at times to discuss, but also there's a lot to get your teeth into.
Aye, mate, it's a long film, mate, to be honest with you. It didn't, even though it was 2.5 hours, I usually think it was a bit of a slog. But actually, the film was it was a good film, mate. It was enjoyable, if I can say that word, because it just obviously what transpired and things like that. It was intriguing. Was invested and all that, mate. So enjoyed talking about it, mate. I did enjoy the way that you have changed up a wee bit as well with the acts.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it as well. This is the point of the episode where we do our seismic stars and we give the movie a rating out of 10. It's quite difficult to give it a rating just because of what we mentioned earlier. It's like, so we're obviously purely just rating this as a movie. It's not saying that we enjoyed the inner contents of it, but the way it was portrayed came across well. So What would you give this out of 10, James, as a movie?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
You get an 8 out of 10. I think if we said it all, mate, the acting, the scene, the Halloween scenes, mate, the real life nature, learning as well, and just I think I was actually surprised the budget was so low for this, mate, as well, because of who's in the film. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what did they find?
Maybe they cut money elsewhere, location, maybe.
Location and also the Hungarian folk and all that I mentioned, but being in like the kind of extras and stuff as well, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if, but anyway, just the acting, mate. Just the actual kind of the theme, mate. I mean, it's a war film without being a war film, if that makes sense. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I was close to getting a 9. I don't know what brought it down, mate. To be honest with you, I don't know. When I watch films, I go, that you're a 9 or 10, right? That's just how I know. But this film, mate, I also feel like I need to justify it, mate. But 8 out of 10, mate. For me, like I say, I enjoyed it, mate, and for the I don't even say enjoyed because of the obviously the content of the film, but the pure dramatisation of what actually happened, mate, was phenomenal, mate. So 8 out of 10, buddy.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm glad you enjoyed it because see when you recommend a film or you choose it for the podcast, you're always a wee bit nervous that you hope they liked it because obviously if we pick it, we most likely enjoyed it. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. I know that Chris from What's the Script in the wee video they did sharing what we've been watching, he mentioned that he really enjoyed that as well. So that was good. What would I give it? At least an 8. Do we do 0.5s anymore?
No, you told me not to do it anymore, so you can't do it either.
Okay, I'll probably sit with you. I'll probably sit with you and go an 8 then. I'm really glad I switched it on that day because when it came out in cinema, it was actually one that I would have liked to see. I just find it challenging to get to the cinema these days. I tend to go to more child-friendly movies and take the kids with me. That's my route to the cinema these days. But I can catch these on Now TV. We should get Now TV to sponsor us, by the way. That'd be pretty good. So yeah, I'll go 8 out of 10 as well.
Cool beans.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I thought this is my premise. I think when people click on a review, they really want to get right into the review, and if they enjoy our review and they enjoy our back and forth, then they might be interested to hear what else we've been watching. So my philosophy put at the end was for the invested listeners, but also to get us right into the episode right away.
Cool, mate. Your philosophy, just like Russell Martin.
Hopefully I'm more successful. So, James, what have you been watching over the past week, if anything?
Well, obviously watched Nuremberg. Yeah, watched that. I finished Sherlock, and I moved on to Elementary. So I'm on episode 9, season 1 of Elementary. Quite good, mate.
What's Elementary?
It's a Sherlock Holmes TV show.
Right.
So I quite like Sherlock Holmes, mate. So and it was Johnny Lee Miller that plays him, who's the sick boy in Trainspotting. He's actually quite good. Right away in the first episode, mate, I was like, this guy's really good at playing what Sherlock Holmes was like in other kind of films and TV shows that I've seen, mate. So I'm sticking with it. So thanks for the recommend. It was Craig at What's the Script that told me about that. I've still got 911, What's Your Emergency on as well.
What's Your Emergency?
What's Your Emergency? What's Your Emergency?
Is that your long form show then? Is that just one you're kind of plodding through?
Oh well, Sherlock Elementary, mate, is my long form show, man, because I just found out it's got 24 episodes in the first few seasons, man. So I'm watching that. And I don't know, 911 seasons. I don't know how many it's got on it, mate.
Hopefully not 911.
Well, we never know. What else did I watch? I think I watched something else, mate. I can't remember now.
Maybe come back to you.
Aye, I think that's it, mate.
So watched Nuremberg, obviously. Watched it twice. Well, I watched it once because I'd already watched it once. I actually watched a movie with the kids. It was a comedy I'd never actually seen. Are We There Yet? With Ice Cube. You seen it?
I think so, mate. Aye. Who else is in it?
I can't really think who else was in it, but it was.
It's not quite a few of them.
What's that? There could be. I don't know. But I actually quite enjoyed it. Ice Cube's actually quite good in movies because he was in the Jump Street movies as well.
You with me?
And it got me reminiscing a bit for some of that kind of music, like Ice Cube, 50 Cent from my younger days.
I used to watch it. I used to listen to NWA, mate, back in the day as well. That's obviously.
I put on one of the Ice Cube songs and then quickly remembered that the videos would be highly inappropriate, so I turned it off quite quickly.
Did you play it in the house?
I put on one of the songs, but then I was like, actually, that's probably not very appropriate. So I watched that. I bookmarked a movie to watch. Well, a couple of movies are kind of lining up to watch. Paul's wanted me to watch Black Hawk Down.
He said that last week, didn't he?
Maybe watch that at some point. And I was interested when it was in the cinema, but it's on Now TV now. It's I Know What You Did Last Summer, the one that came out last year.
Aye.
So I might watch that. TV shows, I'll get to my long form show in a second. I've simplified it a bit. I'm not going to have a long form show and a short form show because I'll still just keep going back and forward. So what I'm doing is a long form show and a couple that are kind of coming out weekly at the moment. So I watched A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the penultimate episode, which was really good. And there's one episode remaining. I would recommend you watch it if you want when it's all out. It's about 6 episodes.
Right, I'll listen it.
Pretty good. And Shrinking, I watched the latest episode of that. And what's the script seemed to be a fan of that as well. So I'm going to watch the last episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and then I'll be watching Shrinking Wednesdays until that's done. And on to Dexter. So spoilers for Dexter. I finished season 4. I enjoyed season 4 a lot more than season 3. Season 2 is probably still my favourite. But that last scene in season 4, by the way, because you and Paul kept I knew that Rita died, but I didn't know how she died. And there's bits throughout this season where you wonder, is Dexter going to like take his family out? I really hope he doesn't, because he's obviously his dad's kind of in his head, isn't he? And he keeps saying like, you'd be better off without them. But then that scene with Rita at the end, I thought it was like just sometimes Dexter just imagines things. I thought he just imagined it, and then when his son was on the floor, I was so taken aback. Like I knew she was going to go, but I thought like she would find out because she obviously dies not knowing what he is. Which her reaction and his sister's reaction were the two that I was not looking forward to, but you thought they'd be a big moment. So it was just so abrupt because the Trinity Killer must have done that obviously before Dexter finishes him. But we thought Rita was away on the early honeymoon, and then she's not, and then she's gone. And then I've watched the first episode of season 5, and Dexter's not coming across as very innocent, so we'll see where that goes. So I've done that, and I found that scene hard. See, because I've got a wee one myself, seeing the wee boy crying and looking for his mum, that got me, I must admit.
It kind of mirrored
so yeah,
Dexter's a boy as well, mate. With having the
I know
Dana.
But I just didn't. I thought I thought the season had been wrapped up with the Trinity's demise. I didn't think there was going to be like the next twist at the end of that episode. Do you know what I mean? I thought we were kind of home and dry.
Yeah, I think if you talk to anyone who likes Dexter, mate, they'll do any kind of scenes that comes out. That's probably when they come up top, mate. If I'm being honest with you, although I thought I ruined it for you, mate, because I got mixed up because on the group chat one day I asked Colin, "How did you take?" I kept something about Rita anyway, and Colin replied back saying, "What do you mean? What do you mean Rita's fine or something like that?" Because he said, "Because." Did I get mixed up? I thought Rita died in season 3, but it's season 4. And then Paul wrote back awkward. And I'm going, no.
Sure,
So
the funniest part,
me and Paul actually in a side chat, concocted up some kind of, don't you mean X, Y, and Z? I go, that's right. So we don't know if he bought it or not, mate, to be honest with you, but we thought we'd get away with it.
I knew that she, I knew that she died, but I feel bad for Astor and Cody now I think about it as well.
I'll say a word, mate. Don't talk about Dexter until you're finished it.
I know I've been quite slow, but it's just we do the same job. I've also got the kids side of things as well. It's hard to get through things quickly. But are you quite glad I've committed to Dexter and made it this far?
Oh, mate, done well, mate. You get another 4 seasons to go, mate, or something like that. So
plus the spin-offs. But see, the fact I'm just going to solely concentrate on it, I'll get through it a lot quicker because I'm trying to be more disciplined with these things. So it'll be whatever movie we're watching, a couple of weekly shows, and Dexter.
Cool, mate.
Till it's done. I also thought leaving it to the end tonight gave me a proper chance without ruining the flow of the podcast to talk about the end of Dexter season 4.
Happy with that, mate.
So all we need to do is hear, because it's James, it's up, because Paul picked Hacksaw Ridge, I picked Nuremberg. Are we going to keep going with the war theme, or are we moving on to a new genre? That's what James is going to reveal now.
Well, mate, I'm going to move on from the war era. I'm going to move on. Going to go into the future a wee bit. So 2 questions for you, buddy. Do you know how to use the three seashells?
No.
Okay. Do you like Armour hot dogs?
They sing a song about it in The Simpsons. Armour hot dogs.
They do. They also sing a song about it in the film that I'm going to review. So the film I'm going to review is a film called Demolition Man.
Demolition Man. Is it on Now TV?
I don't know, mate. It stars Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes.
Okay. Rocky. Okay.
I think it's 1994 they came out, mate, about that.
Right. Well, I will look into that then.
So you've also not seen the film, mate, so it fits in with your mantra, mate.
Well, I suppose, this week you hadn't seen it either, so.
Aye, that's true, mate.
Yeah.
But I hope you enjoy this one. It's hopefully Paul, I'm pretty sure he's seen it. I'd be surprised if he hasn't. Good to get Paul back on for that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. Okay, so that was our review of Nuremberg and a wee update on what we've been watching. So just a wee reminder at the end, if you enjoyed this, you should follow us on social media so you can get involved in the conversation. We'd love to get some comments from listeners and fans that we can put on. You can. Yep.
We've got one comment for the film, Nuremberg.
Okay. Go.
It was by Chris from It's a Script. He said it was smashing, mate. That was his words. So I don't know if he's on. I don't know if he's on the Swally tonight or no, but thanks for your input, Chris.
Well, we need to do a live show at some point. So you can check us out. We're 1 subscriber away on YouTube from 250, which is a quarter of the way to potential monetization on YouTube. So it is. That's a fact. 1,000 is what you need to start earning some ad revenue. So we're getting there. So give us a follow. Spotify as well. Why not? And any of the other ones. And make sure you check out the people at the Podpack Collective. Right, James, it's been a a pleasure. It's been good to get back in, and it's been good to do an episode where I didn't have to leave halfway through to soothe a crying child. So yeah, that's us. I'm Colin. I've usually not seen it. Paul, who's not with us tonight, he has usually watched it in the wrong order.
And I'm James, and I've probably written an essay on it, but this time I hadn't seen it. Goodbye.